Hello, puzzle people. Welcome if it's your first time here. Welcome back if you've been here before. This is part 5 of my 2025 World Jigsaw Puzzle Championship recaps. This is the penultimate episode. Again, hello to all the new subscribers to this channel. It keeps going up in between each of these videos. I appreciate every single one of you being here, and I hope you stick with me even after these recap videos are done. In this video, I'll be talking about the events that took place at the 2025 World Jigsaw Puzzle Championships on Friday, September 19th. This was a quieter scheduled day with just 3 events taking place, although they were longer events as it is the first day of the Teams event. This was actually the best scheduled day, but it did highlight the poor scheduling from the previous days of the WJPC, especially the pairs event day. Because now, according to Friday's schedule, we can have events that take place during mid-afternoon, between 2 and 4 p.m. This schedule is relevant for today's video because if they had taken a break like the previous days, this video would be a whole lot shorter. But because they didn't take the break, we got to experience some chaos. Now, I've been told by some people that the reason there wasn't mid-afternoon schedule events taking place, puzzling times in the previous days, was because of kind of like the siesta afternoon that they have in Spain. However, because of today's schedule that I'm covering for the Teams event, the Teams Qualifiers, apparently you can have stuff to take place during that time. So you can also argue the heat, but because things are scheduled on this day all afternoon, you can schedule stuff during that time. So the scheduling excuses for the previous days are irrelevant now, because once you do it once at some point, it defeats excuses you have from previous days. So a lot of issues, especially the pairs events the day before, issues could have been avoided earlier in the week. They just chose not to. Now, today's video, I do plan on being more positive than part 4. I've gone over my concerns with some of the issues that came up during the 2025 World Jigsaw Puzzle Championships in the previous 4 parts, especially in part 4. We're now in the home stretch, and at this point, it's just easier to laugh at the chaos that unfolds, especially on Friday, September the 19th. The day started again at 9 a.m. like the previous few days with Teams Qualifier A. Now, the Teams Qualifier rounds are the only events of the entire week where the puzzles are not placed inside of bags beforehand. So getting there as early as possible is beneficial. Now, I understand not being able to put all the puzzles into a bag because 4 1,000-piece puzzles do not fit into a ravensburger bag. I have an example here. This is one of the bigger ravensburger puzzle bags. It has currently 3, 1, 2, 3 puzzles in it, and that is all I could fit. So I understand not being able to put all the puzzles into a single bag. You can have 2 bags. That is definitely an option that they could have had, but they didn't. So all the puzzles for that round, for all the qualifier rounds, are just put on top of the table. So as soon as you walk into the dome, you are able to see what the options are going to be. On the Teams days, there always seems to be at least one door open somewhere around the dome. So if you get there early enough, you can peek inside and see those 4 puzzles. They still let you into the dome 5 to 10 minutes before the round starts, into the corralling area that I've discussed in previous videos. So you still have a good chunk of time to look at all of your options with your team. So the earlier your team gets there, you're going to get a bit more of an advantage where you can talk through strategies. You can look up information online through My Speed Puzzling and other websites to see how fast some of these puzzles have been done by other teams, because these are all previously released puzzles. So there is strategy taking place, all of which could have been solved by just using one more Ravensburger bag than normal per table. It's it's an option that was not utilized. My team was in the first qualifiers of the day at 9 a.m. and we got there early for this specific reason. We knew that there was a chance to be able to see the puzzles earlier, and we were able to get there a little bit earlier. We were one of the first teams into the dome once you could see, once we were allowed in. Again, giving us time to make this decision to pick 2 puzzles. Remember, it's 2 puzzles out of 4 before we even sat down. Meaning we could spend more time once we sat down strategizing on what puzzle we're going to do first, how we're going to approach it, who's going to do what. There's a lot that goes into a Teams event, and every minute can count. So we were able to see the 4 puzzle options, and the first one was Sunset over Amsterdam, which is a fairly standard Teams puzzle image. Then we were surprised with not just 2 Disney options, but 2 Christmas Disney options, which officially, to see official Disney branded puzzles is a first. We had the Lilo and Stitch in the pairs round, but this Disney branded it's a first. I feel like them giving us 2 winter themed Christmas puzzles during a heat wave in the middle of September was potentially a joke. But it has to be, right? It has to be a joke. The first one was Disney Snow Globes, and the other was a Disney Christmas, I think it was called. In my opinion, these were red herring puzzles. They are more challenging than they look. Anything with that much snow on it is always going to be difficult. Christmas decoration puzzles in general are tougher because it's just a lot of greens. Golds tend to be in there, and it's just a lot of the same style, just spread out. So picking either of those 2 puzzles, while you might be familiar with the characters, that's not the bulk of the puzzle. The bulk of the puzzle is the backgrounds. It's the green Christmas tree aspects. It's the snow, which is a lot more challenging than what the other 2 puzzles in the round were. So picking either of those puzzles, risky move. Looking at the stats for this round as well, the 2 winter Christmas themed puzzles were the least picked among all the teams. So it's clear that not a lot of teams fell for this. We'll call it a trick. It's not. I don't think it's meant to be a trick. It's these puzzles are purely there to get them out of the warehouse. But I can see how teams would think it might be easier. They're not. The final option was a Bridgerton themed puzzle called Seeing and Being Seen. I want to take a moment here to speak to anyone that uses myspeedpuzzling.com to track their times. If you are the first person to upload a new puzzle onto the site, please get the name correct when uploading. This one is still wrong on My Speed Puzzling, which is a bit annoying, I guess, to me. If you type in just Bridgerton, a whole lot of different puzzles show up. They have different names. On the side of the box for this puzzle, you can see the name of the puzzle correctly. It's not just Bridgerton. The actual name of the puzzle is on the side of the box. So please enter those names properly and take a good picture of the box as well. There's some that are sideways for some reason. Just we all know how to use our phones and upload pictures in 2025. Please, I know it's pedantic, but please just nicer uploads. Let's not make mistakes that potentially some organizations or companies might do out of laziness. We're better than that. Now let's discuss the results of Qualifier A. For the most part, it was uneventful. There's something we'll get to in a minute, but this seemed to be a nice, easy round. In terms of everything else that's gone on this week, this was nice. In first place, we have the Euro Jigsaw Jacks, or the EJJ squad, with a time of 106.51, which set a record for 2 puzzles being completed back-to-back in the shortest period of time, as well as the fastest single puzzle to be completed for a team as well, for pre-released puzzles. And it took their 30 minutes and 32 seconds for one of their puzzles, which is unbelievably fast. And that was for Sunset over Amsterdam. I'm going to come back to this team shortly, though. In second place was the team The Fast Four, a team from Germany with a time of 1:07:02, just 11 seconds behind the first place team. And in third place, we have the Jigsaw with a time of 1:12:04. Now, the first and third place team were both classified as mixed teams, so they were not competing officially under a certain country's flag. It also means that this is because more than one person on the team is from a different country. So the second place team from Germany had everyone on that team from Germany. If it was a team from Canada, all 4 members would be from Canada. The UK, Australia, Egypt, whatever. All 4 members on that team would be from the same countries. Mixed means that there is multiple countries represented on the same team. The first place team, the EJJ squad, had 4 people, obviously, on the team, from 4 different countries as well: Italy, Germany, Finland, and Poland. While the third place team had members from 3 different countries: New Zealand, 2 from Germany, and 1 from Italy. All of the members of these teams are very good individual puzzlers on their own and with pairs, so it would make sense they're also going to be very good on teams. However, it is strictly my opinion, these types of mixed teams, I don't think should exist in the teams events at the World Championships. Let me go all the way through this before comments or stuff are typed below. There's been a lot of people that are comparing issues that came up at these World Championships with other organizations and other activities in sports that also have World Championships when it comes to organization, repeating the same location every year, which is not common for World Championship activities in sports. And other factors that come up when you're in a World Championship specific scenario. If we want to be consistent, if we want to make the complaints, which we are more than willing to do, we also need to acknowledge that try to think of other sports, activities, whatever it might be that has a World Championship aspect or event. How many of them have teams events where multiple countries are on the same team? I can't think of any. Now, there probably is something out there, and someone's going to comment below that there might be some examples, but for the most part, for the vast majority, you're not going to have a mixed country team trying to win a World Championship. It goes, for me, it's not in the spirit of what a World Championship is, especially where country status in the other events, especially individual, country status is taken into account. And we know it's important because at the closing ceremonies, you saw how many people did you see walk up onto that stage to collect their trophies, waving their country's flag, which is absolutely great. And as many countries that can be shown and win and whatever, that's all great. Let's have that. But then we can't have a specific team event where it's multiple countries represented on one. So that's the reason why. And I do have a suggestion on how we can still have our cake and eat it too. Yeah, I'll go into that. So I would love to see at the World Championships an additional event put in place where we'll call them super teams, where we are picking essentially the best of the best to join on these mixed teams and then see who's fastest. Have a mixed event, a one-off. There's no qualifiers. It's just a single one-off event where you can submit a super team and try to be part of the fastest team in the world. How I envision this would be that this event would take place on the last day of the World Championships. It would take place after the team's event is done, sometime in the morning, and before the closing ceremonies took place later in the day. The reason I would have it on the last day and not at the start of the week, we already have the opening ceremonies. We have the Nations Challenge, which, while needing adjustments, I think should still stay in it. And having some sort of Guinness World Record attempt, I'm also fine with that. Make the record clearer. I've had people message me over the past week or so since I released that part one of my recap where I complained about not knowing what the world record was. And I've had a lot of responses, none of which are the same from one to the other. So it's clear that we're not quite sure what the record was. I digress. But having this event at the end of the week would be a great way to kind of add to the international aspect of the World Championships. If you watch like the Olympics and the closing ceremony, the opening ceremonies for the Olympics, you have every team come in one by one, and they're in their own separate sections, which again, I think that's how they should do the World Championships for this as well. But again, but at the end of the Olympics, while they may come in countries, there's so much more intermingling between the athletes because they spent the past 1, 2, 3 weeks getting to know each other, talking with each other, living with each other, and the camaraderie is there. So if you did this super team event at the end of the World Championships, it would give people a week or so to get to know other puzzlers. A lot of us kind of know each other, but mostly just through social media. Being able to meet people in person, I think, is a huge benefit to the World Championships and a great aspect of it. It would also mean that you might be able to practice with some of these potential team members, and you can sign up during the week. You're going to get people to sign up. That event will you'll get people there. And then you can have this kind of fully international, who's the fastest team, mixed team, super team in the world, and use that as your benchmark for next year. Can you beat this team's time? You could also have an instance where whoever wins the team event still competes as that team, and they take on the super teams and see if they can beat these super teams. There's so many options that you can do where you can still have this fun part where you're bringing in the best puzzlers from various countries to team up together, but not when teams are competing specifically under their nation's flag. So I think there's options here. Will anything change? Absolutely not. But that's my 2 cents for that. When it comes to the actual competition, I think when it comes to teams, at least 3 of the 4 team members should be from the same country. I'll concede some leniency here where it doesn't have to be 4 for 4 because things do come up. People drop out or they're unable to attend the World Championships at the last moment. People become ill. That did happen on the teams day this year where there was some teams and some big name teams scrambling to find replacements, some because they were out because of heat stroke, and some other various reasons as well. So having those last minute changes, I understand that. That's absolutely fine. That's not what I mean by these super teams. There's also people that have multiple passports, myself included. There's also, especially in Europe, you may live in one country while you were born in another country, but because say you were born in Germany, but you're living in Portugal, you're going to be around a lot more Portuguese people and practicing with them and maybe teaming up with them. However, your passport that you registered with is German. So I think you should have 3 out of the 4 team members, or you have to declare a country that you are under. The mixed flag thing, not for the teams events. That being said, those are not the rules that were in place this year, so it is worth still acknowledging how good those two mixed teams were in the first qualifier, how fast they were, and whether you're a mixed team or not, these are still incredibly fast teams. What I do enjoy a lot from the teams round are the t-shirts and all the designs that teams have tried to, they did come up with. This is when they all become, they all get shown and they're put on display. And I mean this more than what the countries do. So often you'll see each country will have a shirt for their puzzlers. Team Canada had a shirt, Mexico had a shirt, Australia always are, you know exactly where the Australians are in there. Germany was one of the sponsored countries from Ravensburger, and their blue shirts looked amazing as well. I'm shocked those aren't being sold. Well, they might be by the time I do this video, but those would sell. I did hear quite a few people over the course of the week going, yeah, we'd buy that Ravensburger shirt. Maybe not as many now afterwards, but there was an opportunity there. But it is fun to see the team-specific shirts and the creative names that they come up with. Some designs are really awesome, and it shows the creativity that runs deep in the puzzling community. If I return for the 2026 World Championships, and maybe even if I don't, my goal is to get pictures of as many of the different logos as possible, just to compare, to see all the different things that people are doing from around the world. And of course, have a vote on my Instagram to see which one is the best. So stay tuned for that and start planning your 2026 designs. Back to puzzling in round one. I keep digressing. We did have some rules controversy come out of the teams round because it wouldn't be a day in Valladolid without some sort of controversy with the WJPC. The evening before teams started, it was unofficially announced, I guess, or declared or mentioned or something through social media that for the first time at the World Jigsaw Puzzle Championships, because remember, everything is the first time this year, teams would no longer need to take apart their first puzzle before starting the second puzzle. You can keep it fully assembled if you want to. All teams would need to do would be to take the sheet that we do the puzzles on and pull it out from underneath the first puzzle when you're done, place it on top of the puzzle, and then you'll be able to start the second puzzle on top of the sheet, which was on top of the first puzzle. This was essentially referred to as the slide and hide method. The issue here is that this was brand new. It wasn't explicitly stated that you could do it, but it also wasn't explicitly stated that you couldn't do it. So the only issues people did have was, first of all, no one's been practicing this. So there's going to be a risk involved if you try to do that. And there were some teams that did it great. There were some teams that did not do it so great. But that also applies to the traditional method of folding the puzzle up and putting it back into the box as quickly as possible. There are some teams that do it fantastically, usually because they've practiced, and there's other teams that will accidentally push their puzzle onto the floor and pieces go everywhere. So that's going to be a bit of a factor. The other issue was that technically, this does give a small advantage to a team that does not take apart the puzzle. And that is because you now know what the dimensions are, because you would be able to feel that puzzle full outline underneath the puzzle you're working on. So if you're doing the border, specifically the border, you're going to know how many pieces kind of you have left on each of the four sides. It's not going to be so much of an advantage where you can figure out what the cut of the pieces are and what shape of the next piece might be in the puzzle if you're missing a certain piece. It's not going to get to that far, but there's still a slight advantage in terms of knowing the dimensions. Some people did try it. You can go and watch on the live stream some of the teams that attempted to pull it off. And if it was a top team and they tried it, they probably did it properly. there was a very small tutorial that I can no longer find posted on social media. My issue with this was the tutorial was with I think it was like a 100-piece puzzle. So sliding something out from a 100-piece puzzle is very different than a 1,000-piece puzzle with a much, much larger sheet. My team did not attempt the slide and hide method. I was very much an advocate of, we've practiced it the other way. We know what we're doing. Maybe the slide and hide method saves us 5 seconds. It's the qualifier. 5 seconds probably isn't going to make a difference for us. We went through, no problem, finishing in 11th for this round. But if it goes wrong, because we haven't practiced it, you could be costing yourselves a whole lot more than a few seconds. So it was not worth the risk for us. The option to do the slide and hide continued into Teams Qualifier B. The puzzles for that round were Coastal Cottage, which was by far the most popular choice in this round. Palacio Nacional de Pena, that's pronounced wrong, was a puzzle that was chosen by more than half the teams. This was expected, as the Castle series, which is relatively new, was highly predicted to have at least one puzzle show up in the teams round. We've had the Garden series before, and there's been other similar types of series that have shown up in the teams round. The castles hadn't shown up yet, so we kind of thought one would. One did. So teams have had the chance to practice these a little bit. This was actually probably the easiest puzzle from the castle series, so that was surprising that the easy option came up. The third option was Flamingo Park, which was chosen by almost the same number of teams as the castle. I love the Flamingo Park puzzle. I definitely would have picked that. I think it is a nice, easy team puzzle. It's quite similar in terms of organization, design completely different, but similar in terms of organization, how you'd break it apart as the Bridgerton themed puzzle from the previous round. So I definitely would have chosen it if I was in this round. And then the final puzzle was Christmas Time, which was chosen by 0 teams. And I'm curious if this has ever happened before, where no team, no one picks a puzzle. Even in the pairs round, where we had the sloth selfie, one pair made the choice to do that puzzle. But also, we're now 2 rounds into the qualifiers for teams, and 3 of the 8 puzzles have been Christmas themed. Yeah, we know that if there is any doubt left, which there shouldn't be, if there is any doubt left that they are clearing out their warehouse, this is gone now. 3 Christmas puzzles in September at the World Championships? No. Now, I could be wrong, and maybe Ravensburger is just clearing out their old Christmas stock to make room for some amazing new Christmas puzzles they're about to release later this year. Unlikely, but we can hope. There's always room for hope. Unlike the first qualifier, though, this round does not go quite as smoothly. Coastal Cottage, the puzzle that was selected by 57 of the 67 teams in this round, has production issues. For quite a few teams, large chunks of the puzzle was either missing, or they would have double or even triple, in some cases, of the same pieces in the puzzle as well. This likely means that when the puzzle was being pressed, there was a lot of pieces and puzzles sticking together and pieces being distributed between multiple bags. Now, I'm not going to go into a big rant against Ravensburger in this video. I've done that in a previous one when it comes to repeating puzzles. I'll just restate that they should be doing better, especially given it's the World Championships. I know production issues in every industry can happen, but there needs to be some sort of accountability or a slightly higher bit of effort when it comes to the people that are competing at this event, that are probably where a huge chunk of your money is coming from. For this to happen to so many teams as well in a single round with the same puzzle, I would not be surprised if this happened with this puzzle in other boxes that were sold internationally and available to other people. And if that is the case, again, there's always room for hope. I really hope that Ravensburger was not aware of it. And I really hope they were not using the World Championships as a way to get rid of this defective batch of puzzles. I hope. I'm not saying they did that, and I hope that's not the case. Now, how these issues were handled was also inconsistent across the teams, which is frustrating. I'm not going to go into the different options. Different teams were offered different options on how they wanted to proceed during this. All I can say at this point is for the 2026 World Jigsaw Puzzle Championships, if there is one, can the WJPF sit down, preferably with puzzlers, and go through all the issues that happened this year and previous years and look at how everything has gone and write a definitive rule book. There are always going to be exceptions. You can't account for everything. And we're definitely going to get into that with Teams Qualifier C in a few minutes. But when it comes to puzzle defects, or if you need to take a puzzle apart or not at the start of a round, or if you need to cut stickers off from now on, these are common and basic scenarios where the rules and guidelines are easy to set out in advance and don't deviate from them. People might not be happy about whatever decision it is that you make, but if it is written in stone and you stick with it, people will adapt. People will be able to practice and get ready in advance for this. But just changing the rules, however you feel like it, and just kind of going, that's a new rule, here's a new rule, there's a new rule, and just like have a rule book, a clear rule book that goes from one year to the next. You can make adjustments afterwards if you don't like it, but just have a set rule book in place and don't change it once it's been published. Once the World Championships is done, go to town in October, make as many changes as you want so it's ready for next September. But how many times throughout the months leading up to it, or the hours leading up to a specific event, or the minutes leading up to a specific event, were the rules changed this year? That's not how you run any event. The winners of round B qualifiers were the Aussie All-Stars with a time of 1:03.50, and this made me happy for two reasons. First, this is the team I picked in my World's Prediction video to win the team's event overall. So things were looking good. It also meant that the two records the super team, the EJJ squad in the previous round, had just set for the fastest two puzzles and the fastest individual teams puzzle were broken just hours later. And super teams are fine to have, but I do like seeing a team from a specific country. Doesn't matter what the country is, just as long as they're from a country, set these records and establish records to be broken by future countries. If there was a special round, the EJJ squad would have been my pick as the best team overall. And potentially my favorite as well. Everybody on that team are extremely nice people. I spoke to some of them at Worlds. I'm sure I'll speak to the rest of them at some point as well. They would, potentially be my favorite team. But the Aussie All-Stars were my pick to win the team's events. If it can't be a Canadian team, obviously. The Aussie All-Stars, they practice so hard. You can see the effort they put into it, and they always seem to be positive. Always. And obviously that's not me, but it is nice to see that from a team that does well every single year. In second place, a team I will definitely pronounce wrong, the Todos a la Cal, a Spanish team with a time of 1:15:45, almost 12 minutes behind the first place team, Aussie All-Stars. So you can kind of see why I picked the Aussie All-Stars. And in third place were the Qubuzzles. That's not a word. From Germany with a time of 1:16. Congratulations to all three of those top teams in this round. On all the other days at the World Jigsaw Puzzle Championships this year, there has been a bit of a break in the middle of the afternoon to cool down the dome, apparently so people can have their siestas and lunches as well. But as I said at the start of the video, that excuse is now gone because there's no break today. They are carrying on through. They could have easily had a break and started this event later, but just like every other day, they did kick everybody out of the dome and try to fight the laws of physics and chemistry and try to cool down the dome somehow with trying to cool down the dome. Now, the dome wasn't as unbearable today as the previous days. It did seem like the heat wave had kind of broken a little bit. The temperature had definitely dropped. So they didn't need to have a break, but they just could have if they wanted to. Even if it was just to give the volunteers and the workers inside of that dome a bit of a rest as well, because each of the teams qualifiers was 3 hours each, and as soon as one was done, the next one would start. So back to back to back, that's 9 hours plus the stuff that happens in between each round. That's a long day. Now, if they had taken a break, let's say from 4 p.m. till 6 p.m., the rest of this video is very short and there's not much to tell. That's not what happened, because sometimes we do get nice things. And in this case, we get to experience some hilarious yet chaotic moments. Teams Qualifier C started around 4:30 p.m., which is about 30 minutes behind schedule. If they had just waited another 90 minutes and started at 6 p.m., again, this video is a lot shorter. We had thunderstorm warnings throughout the day, and the sky looked less than ideal, but we carry on. And honestly, it was still hot out. I know it wasn't as hot as the previous days, but it was still hot. We're still in Spain. And so a little bit of rain would be refreshing. So a few drops of rain here and there, no issues with that. Right around the start of the Teams Qualifier C, a few droplets did start to fall. Nothing major at all. Like it was literally just a few drops of rain. I will always laugh at some people's reaction to a couple drops of rain, as you see people sprinting inside to get away from the water as though they're a direct descendant of the Wicked Witch of the West and they will melt outside.
You cursed brat! Look what you've done! I'm melting! Melting! Oh, what a world! What a world! Who would have thought a good little girl like you could destroy my beautiful wickedness? Ah,
It's not that bad, but some people full on sprint as soon as that first raindrop hits. Then okay. It's still hot out, and there's still a bit of a sun, so we know the rain's not going to last that long. In these at the start, the rain of course stopped, then it started again, and then it stopped again, then started, then stopped, and that kind of how it went for a little bit. Nothing major. A special shout out to the Canadians, myself included, that stayed outside when it was with the minimal amount of rain. We were the last people outside. It was hot out. Water dries. It's not the end of the world. Also a shout out to the people that were still puzzling outside underneath the tents that they had, and the puzzle chicken events that were still running as well. Once you start a puzzle, people are dedicated to finishing it, and people push through, especially as the rain started to get a little bit harder. The biggest issue was the wind, and it was getting strong. Here's a video I took while sitting on the bench outside of the dome in the rain. and you can see the outdoor screen starting to sway. Two things to note here. You can see how soft the rain is on the bench, so it's not that big of a deal. But also, I didn't realize I caught the hopefulness of a conversation between two Canadians talking about whether the screen might fall or not. For the record, I said it was definitely going to fall over, but they were hopeful that that screen was going to be just fine.
I just want to point out on the screen down in the lower left-hand corner we have the question marks, and that's Natalia, Justina, and Zana, and they're actually facing really well, maybe even slightly ahead of the Osmays, so I'm actually fairly impressed on that. I think that if we're thinking about this sort of like for like, I think that this is, you know, maybe the fastest puzzle, and so obviously we've got a couple of teams choosing that, but then the Puzzle Marauders in the upper left-hand corner with Gisela, Alejandro, Laura, and Rafael, they're actually doing quite well on the Christmas puzzle, which I think is a harder puzzle, as I have said. And so
take more gusts than that.
They might be a little slower here, but actually on a equal pace.
Is it 4?
Yeah, it's 4. It's 4 on each side. It's not.
You can see in the video that the screen is swaying back and forth, and not by just like a little bit, like a couple centimeters or so. There's a definite sway taking place here. You can also see a bunch of signs beside the screen have already fallen over, so we know there's wind. The rain started to pick up after this, and it picked up a lot, to the point where to the few of us Canadians that were still outside, we were just kind of out there based on principle. Now there was a ton of people standing in front of the entranceway taking videos of us, which is fine. And the rain that was taking place outside, we were already wet. You can't get more wet once you're wet. I mean, it's just a little bit of rain. We're sitting there. It's fine. It's not our first day. One of the funnier moments that was not caught on camera, unfortunately, were two volunteers that ran outside to put plastic bags over the speakers beside the screen. Good for them for doing that. What was funny about it is that you still have the massive screen that had countless wires in the back of that were just being drenched with rain. So yes, the two speakers are saved, but I'm not liking the odds for the screen. The rain and wind continued to get stronger. Tents were now blowing away, which was funny to see. The Puzzle Chicken event came to an end, which I believe that would mean nature won the Puzzle Chicken event, because it was still there and the other ones had left. So we know who won chicken in that case. And then the big moment happens. Thank you to the person who filmed this.
Oh no!
This is obviously awful, and there is going to be a significant amount of damage and cost associated with the fall of the screen, but also it's super funny. Absolutely hilarious. It might be the hardest I laughed all week. I'm still laughing at the thought of it now, watching all of this unfold. Not just because it happened, but because I said minutes earlier that it's going to fall down. You can see, but just by it swaying, if the wind picked up, it was going to be pushed over. I also said it was going to be hit by lightning, so let's just be happy that didn't come true. But because of the week, we've just had a calamity of errors for every other one of the days so far this week. It has now culminated in this moment. Even the screen has given up. It's still funny to me, and it will always be funny. Let's watch it again.
Oh no!
No, this is never going to get old. This is such a funny image. When they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, this one is an entire series of books. You can also still see in the picture the plastic bags over top of the speakers, so at least they're protected. Well done to those plastic bags. They're giving it their all. And then almost right after this, the hail started. Yeah, hail. This was the breaking point for the Canadians that were still outside. We did go into the inside of the dome at this point. To the person standing inside of the entrance that said to me, "You gave up, huh?" Yeah. Even Canadians have their weather limits. Balls of ice being thrown at us from the clouds is that limit. I think we did a pretty good job. And then we entered the Thunderdome. Remember, I had been sitting outside for all of this. But entering the dome with the thunder outside, plus the hail and the rain, it was so loud inside of that dome. I have no idea how those teams were concentrating. Here's a video of what it sounded like, and it really doesn't do it justice on how loud it actually was inside the dome. And here's another look of the hail outside, and you can hear it in the background hitting the dome as well. Again, it doesn't do it full justice on just how loud it was inside of that building. And if that wasn't bad enough, we have our first leaks of the day, as the ceiling, clearly not built for a potential apocalypse, has started leaking onto the puzzlers below. I am really trying not to laugh, but it's just remembering everything that was going on. It was absolute chaos. Teams are moving their entire puzzles to different tables to avoid the leaks from the ceiling. There's buckets on the ground. There's volunteers rushing to mop up the water. It's just, there's so much going on top of the puzzling that is taking place. Tables were being moved from side to side to try to avoid the leaks as well. Like, it's just, so much was going on. Charlie, one of the hosts on stage before each of the event, who was great all week. Great praise for Charlie throughout the entire World Jigsaw Puzzle Championship. He was standing over a table with an upside down chair to try to protect the leaks from hitting the puzzle in front of them, underneath the chair. And it's just like, again, this is one of the pictures that just kind of sum up the day and the week. Everything that could go wrong was going wrong in one place at one time. One individual, who I won't name, but probably should have been taking control of the situation in some form of the other, was moving an indoor sign slightly to the sides, like a couple inches to the side. The sign had nothing to do with anything. It was just something there to kind of take pictures in front of. It wasn't being impacted by the leaks. It wasn't blocking entrances or doorways. It was literally a random sign that you can take pictures in front of. Moving it slightly to the side of where it was originally. The most pointless adjustment possible, while immediately behind him, chaos ensuing everywhere, with people running around, things falling from the ceiling, puzzlers having to move puzzles, tables being moved, buckets all over the place. But no, that sign had to move 2 inches to the right for some reason. This is one of those, if there was a symbolic moment for the week, that was probably it. Eventually the rain does come to an end. I am absolutely soaked, even though I've been inside for 15 minutes or so at this point. Apparently you can get more wet when you're already wet. I was drenched, as were the rest of the Canadians. There are still teams puzzling, which honestly, even though I was in the dome, I started forgetting about it because there was so much else going on. I forgot that we're in the middle of a World Championship qualifier round. Those of us who weren't puzzling at that time emerged from the dome as though we had been trapped in there for days. It's still so funny to think about, walking outside like squinting eyes as though we weren't it's the middle of the day. It was just what a day. I didn't see the end of this round, as I just wanted to get back to my hotel and change. I squished my way in my shoes all the way down the 10-minute walk back to the hotel. Lost in all of this was the actual puzzling. I would have liked to see the end of the round, but sitting outside was pointless at this point as the screen was now flat on its face. I did forget to mention again, there was puzzling taking place. Before the round started, a rule change occurred because, of course, there's going to be a rule change midway through the qualifying rounds. The competitors were told that slide and hide method was no longer allowed. You had to take apart your puzzle, but you could open the box for the second puzzle before the first one was completely away, just to make things a little bit more complicated than they need to be. Just one round. The 4 puzzles in this round were the 50s, which was chosen by almost every single team. 58 teams chose that. The second most popular puzzle was the Christmas market with 56 teams that picked it. So for the vast majority, that was the double combination. We also had Stitch again in this round, and Lost Places, which was the least picked puzzle with only 13 teams. The fact there's another Christmas puzzle, that's one in every round at this point. 4 out of 12 puzzle options. 33% of the puzzles have been Christmas themed. Clearly, we're getting rid of a warehouse full of puzzles. I do feel bad for the people that pick Lost Places, because at the very start of the round, it was nice and bright outside. It's a dark puzzle, which I would say to any team in the future, don't pick the dark puzzles. But because it's already a dark puzzle, once that thunderstorm rolled in and took away all the outside light that comes through the dome, that would have been such a tough puzzle to finish. I believe it was only four teams that chose that puzzle made it through to the finals. Yeah, don't go with the dark puzzles. I have that puzzle on the shelf right behind me. I didn't practice it before going to Worlds because I figured if it shows up in a team's event, we're not picking it. I have not been to Worlds before, but everything I've heard and everything I've been told, do not pick the dark puzzles. And again, also another Stitch puzzle. How desperate is Ravensburger to get rid of this collection? That's the circle puzzle, Stitch puzzle in the pairs round, and now another one in the teams round. Are they not selling well? I figured Stitch would sell okay, but it's not a repeat puzzle, so I'm not that upset about it, but it's a repeat themed puzzle, which I'm not thrilled about. The winning team from the Netherlands, the O's and A's, finished in first with a time of 1:10:13. Impressive, especially given the circumstances. Also, all week, I did try to find someone from that team with the A's shirt on it. There was 2 O's and 2 A's. They were handing out buttons, and I really wanted one of those giant A buttons for obvious reasons based on my name. Couldn't find them. Maybe next year. In second place, with just the irony of the day, a team from the US called Dome Sweet Dome. I love that they were in that round, given the absolute chaos of the dome. It's just perfection. You can't plan for that. But they did finish in a time of 1:15:47, and in third place was the Puzzle Marauders from Spain with a time of 1:16:46. As always, congratulations to the top 3 teams and every other team that qualified as well. It's also worth noting the people that were on the live stream during this. I can't speak for the Spanish live stream. I should look into them more next year and see what goes on with them. I'm obviously going to be more focused on the English language live stream, but even during the power outages of this round, the chaos that was taking place everywhere, Rob Shields from Peace Talks was one of the co-hosts in this round, as well as Michelle Casper. They just kept pushing on through, along with support from other puzzlers and people that were volunteering during that round. running back and forth, getting updates from other tables, and Rob and Michelle keeping people updated through the chat live stream instead. It was great to see how everyone adapted really quickly to this. It was essentially just a puzzle for everyone to figure out. There's no guidelines. There's no plan in place for this to take place, for this when this happens. And honestly, given everything that happened, I think it ran pretty smoothly because of the co-hosts, because of the volunteers, just kind of stepping up through that. So again, well done to them, and congratulations to all the puzzlers, the ones that qualified and even the ones that didn't. What a chaotic round. That was the end of the day 3 events, but not the end of the leaks for the day. Earlier in the week, potential images for the unreleased puzzles in the pairs semifinal and the individual semifinals were potentially leaked onto a website. A lot of puzzle images showed up on a website, which I'm not going to mention. There's a lot of episodes, a lot of images uploaded onto this site, and people are trying to kind of predict what might show up in these semifinal rounds. And for the most part, people were able to guess pretty well. And even if they didn't get the exact one, or they picked 3 or 4 and one of them showed up, it still gives people the opportunity to kind of study these puzzles in advance and make a plan for it. I can honestly say that I did not engage with trying to predict which of the puzzles might show up in the different rounds. If I had, maybe I gained an extra 90 seconds or so, which would have been enough to push me from the semifinals into the finals for the individual. I didn't, and I'm okay with that. But while there was a lot of speculations on what may or may not show up, there were a lot of confirmed images, and people turned out to be correct once we saw these unreleased images in the 2 semifinal rounds, in the 2 semifinal events, pairs and individuals. I've recorded a lot this week. What's frustrating about this is, why are these images available at all? Again, I don't want to go into a rant like the previous episode, but why can't Ravensburger wait until the World Championships are over to release any of these images? I get that at the end of the day, Ravensburger and any company in the world, their main priority is to make a profit and to sell whatever their product might be. In this case, for Ravensburger, puzzles is a big part, not the only part, but a big part of their company. But in most cases, the unreleased puzzles from the World Championships, these images are only being released for pre-sale. Not like you're not getting the puzzles the next day in a lot of cases. These are for pre-orders for January of next year, months away. This is also extraordinarily frustrating because it means the excuse that was given for not cutting the stickers on the puzzles was for privacy reasons, so images weren't going to be leaked or anything else like that. Well, that theory's gone now. That excuse is irrelevant because things were leaked. This is a catastrophic organizational failure from Ravensburger, and it's only going to get worse. There have also been leaks from other organizations, national organizations, too, not because of Ravensburger, but because of people that work for those organizations that don't keep information to themselves, including ones that have information that's been told directly to me that I've not shared, but I've heard the leaks from specific organizations, but nothing on this scale where the actual images themselves have been released. Again, just a massive organizational failure. But up until this point at the World Championships, none of the finals puzzles images have been released or leaked. That is until Friday or Thunderdome Day. then things changed. A potential leaked image of the pair's final puzzle, right here, was being spread around. This wasn't just because it was a puzzle called speed puzzling, which includes people doing puzzles inside of a dome. I mean, it's pretty on the nose of where this puzzle is supposed to be taking place. It's because that this image was posted on legitimate retailers' websites for sale before the pair's final was taking place the next day on the Saturday. Yeah, once legitimate stores and not knockoff websites start posting it, you kind of have to think this is real. Because it was being spread around so much and it was appearing on websites all over the place, it was confirmed by Ravensburger themselves on their Instagram page. I don't know if it's still on there. I haven't checked, but they tried to make like it fun, I guess, and we were especially revealing the puzzle. If you shook your phone, it would reveal the puzzle. I get what they were attempting to do, and well done to the social media team to try to make something fun out of it, but this is a less than ideal situation. This was highly disappointing for two reasons. First, part of the excitement of the unreleased puzzles is seeing the images for the first time. It's tough to get to semifinal rounds and the final rounds, and part of the reward is getting to be the first to see and to do these unreleased puzzles anywhere in the world. Most of that excitement has already been taken away this week because of that 1 minute sticker cutting time that were allocated, but we still had that moment where we could open the bag and see that image for the first time. That's now been taken away. The second reason is there was a lot of people strategizing about how to approach this puzzle, because this is a finals puzzle and there's something really on the line here. This is it. The top 10 teams get a trophy. There's prize money on the line for the top teams. This matters. And full disclosure, like I said, for the other potential leaks on that one website, which I didn't take a part of, in this case, when it came to the strategizing, I did, because it's the finals. And my partner and I came up with potential strategies on how to tackle this puzzle. Yes, I photoshopped the Ravensburger 1,000-piece puzzle cut on top of the image to see kind of how it would look. Ravensburger needs to change up their cut at some point, I would think, if they want to avoid this. And you may be watching this and judging me for doing that, and that's okay. I get it. If you didn't partake in it, full on judge away. I am okay with that. But I knew for a fact others were doing it as well. And yeah, if others are going for this advantage, so will I. In a finals, I don't care. Now, I didn't go as far as to print out the puzzle in the size of a 1,000-piece, what a 1,000-piece puzzle would be with the right dimensions, and then glue it onto another 1,000-piece puzzle, cut out each piece and practice assembling it, like I've been told by a few credible sources some pairs did. But people are going to try to give themselves as much an advantage as possible. And just for the record, to be absolutely clear, none of the top teams in the pairs final the next day are included in that, printing off the puzzle and practicing assembling it, that I'm aware of. So I do not think, in the grand scheme of things, the top teams or the top pairs participated in that extreme form of strategizing. I hope not. I don't think that's the case, but I know it did happen. This big leak, all it did was show, like I said in a previous video, a lack of overall effort and pride by some of the organizers and some of the sponsors. And today it was just heavily highlighted. But now we just have 2 days left of competitions, one more Teams Qualifier the next day, along with the individual and pairs finals, and one more day with the Teams finals and the closing ceremonies. That is it for this video. There is just one more part from me in this recap series, which will cover the remaining 2 days of the World Jigsaw Puzzle Championships 2025. Speed Puzzling 101 lessons have returned, with a new episode coming next week once these recap videos are done. And episode 5 of Puzzled and Chatty, where I sit down with various speed puzzlers in Canada and soon to be international. This episode is featuring Canadian speed puzzler Liam Kearns. More episodes are being filmed and will be released shortly. And that is it, like I said. So until next time, as always, happy puzzling. Bye.